I'm wondering when you started saying it's giving so much on our podcast.
Um,
Yeah.
I didn't realize I was doing it so often. Oh no, I'm gonna puke.
You,
Happy New Comic Book Day, geeks, and welcome to issue 26 of the Script Heroes podcast.
the show where we bring you comic news, book reviews, and industry blues. My name is Joseph Jasonowski, and I am the writer of Janitor Hero, Cunning Carly, and the Cryptoverse.
And I'm Katie Markham, scripter of the Rusty Robot Country Club and ghostwriter extraordinaire.
The polls we're going to be talking about today are The Boy Wonder, number 1, Ain't No Grave, number 1, Crocodile Black, number 1, Monsters Are My Business, number 2, Morningstar, number 2, and The One Hand, number 4.
That's right, and tune in this Saturday for our first live stream back issue review. We'll be starting at in the morning at 10:09 Central and discussing Batman: The Court of Owls, hopefully with a fun guest.
Very excited to do that. And if you enjoy this episode, that live stream, or anything else from us, you can follow the pod on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, all at the handle Script Heroes Pod, or you can find my personal socials at JJAZ1111.
And I'm on all socials at Katie Markham Pro.
And now, on to the news. Okay, Katie, to start off the news for this week, this is an expansion of a previous news segment, because you know how I love to
Yes,
go
follow-ups.
back. Yeah. So, we were talking about Marvel did the ultimate announcement where they did the Ultimate Universe and announcing all those books, and then there was the 2099 and that stuff.
No.
And then they announced a million X-Men projects with the new X-Men relaunch.
Right.
They have announced more X-Men projects.
Wait, hold up, because did we have 4 before?
No, we had
I feel like we had 4 or 5. 7? I guess you just told me 7.
We had 3 just X-Men books, and then there were 4 solo books.
Okay,
so there are 2
what are
more
these new projects? Yeah.
So before I get to the 2 solo projects that have really been announced, they're also announcing, I guess, part of this relaunch is going to be a crossover with the Avengers in the main Avengers book. So Avengers 17 is going to be part of this X-Men thing. Whatever. It feels weird to call it an Avengers because it's just the X-Men. It's not like it's a titled. It's
They're
just
not
the
doing
X-Men.
anything.
It's yeah, it's just the X-Men. So, but the 2. Do you want to take a guess on what characters have gotten a solo series?
I mean, we had Scott doing something
I'll give you a hint
that I
if
didn't
you want.
care about. We had
they were
Kitty Pryde doing something in Chicago, right?
Those were the team books, though, I believe.
Oh, right.
Yeah. We're talking about solo.
Those are the only ones I remember. I don't remember the solo books.
Yeah, Wolverine had one, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not really remembering all of the other. They were weird ones. I remember us being a little bit confused.
All right, I mean, my first throw out there is going to be, I think Storm is getting a book.
Yes.
Hell yeah.
You nailed it.
I don't know if you guys know, but I'm a really big Marvel fan.
Yeah.
And I'm really smart about
I was kind of joking to Katie before that, I was surprised at the lack of information in this news thing, despite the fact that I did not tell her what it was. And that's when they announced all the other ones, they all had blurbs and creative teams. These don't. So we have a tagline for each of the books. So it's Storm, and then in the tagline, mutants no longer have a homeland, but they still have a queen.
Oh, right, because they got rid of the Magneto place.
So that's coming in October, and that's all we've got there. And then there's a book coming in September.
For Labor Day.
Which is a little bit less. Yeah, this is a little bit less easily guessed, and I can give you a hint if you would like.
No. I got Storm with that hint. Okay. This one?
You did.
Colossus.
No.
Shit.
No. It was a
Colossus's daughter.
Do you want to take one more? No.
No, you would have reacted much more severely if I... Okay, what is the hint?
Yeah. The hint I was going to give you in the beginning is that they're both female characters.
Ooh, so Kitty Pryde already has her Chicago book, so it's not going to be her.
Yes.
I feel like... I don't remember what Jean was doing in the summaries that you gave me before, but I'm not going to guess.
She was in one of the teams, I think.
Right?
No, actually, no. I think she had a solo. She was one of the solos. Phoenix, I think, was one of the solo books. Yeah.
Is it? And this is going to be wishful thinking. Is it Jubilee?
No. Did
Damn.
Jubilee have? Why do I feel like Jubilee had
Damn,
something
did
in
she
there? I
also
don't
have one?
remember.
I must have,
She
just
might have. She might
subconsciously.
have. It
Uh,
feels like she did.
oh no. Okay, who else is an X-Man woman?
Though I might be just
Um,
conflating things. I feel like I saw her name in that book. Like I feel like she was at least in one of the team books or something. Like it felt like she was involved with something.
is it
This is a kid.
Mystique?
Yeah.
Is it Emma
No.
Frost?
Do you? No. No.
Is it? Oh gosh, I'm running through the
it's
Fox
a little more
X-Men.
off the beaten path.
Is it Angel?
It's a little bit. No.
Off the beaten path. I'm barely on the beaten path.
Angel's a man.
Not in the Fox movies.
Yes, he is.
In the Fox ones? In First
Yeah.
Class?
Yeah. Yeah.
Who's the one with the angel wings then? She's got like tattoos.
He's not in First Class. He's in the OG movies.
There's someone
You're
in
talking about like the
Class.
Zoe Kravitz character with the little like
Maybe.
butterfly wings.
I have not watched those movies in a decade or more. Maybe?
I still watch. I watch First Class and Days of Future Past every now and then. Those are.
I
good.
really liked them. I just am terrible at watching anything now.
No, that's
so
fair.
not
That's
her
fair.
then. Okay, who is it?
No, I don't know if she exists. She probably does because there's a million mutants in the cop, but I don't think she's a major mutant. I can't remember her name. But yeah, no,
Fair enough.
Angel is a man.
Oh, is it? I'm trying to remember her name. The Native American character.
No. Do you have you thrown it
I
off
give
at
up.
the wall
I'm
yet?
out of X-Men who are women.
It's Dazzler.
Oh, I wasn't out of X-Men who are women. I loved Exterminators. That was she's the main character, or one of the main characters in that. And Boom Boom is another one. It shows you how much I know about X-Men. No, I think that's super rad. I am down for a Dazzler comic. She's also
You want the tagline because it gives us even less than Storms. But
Okay.
the tagline is "Her world tour begins."
No, that kind of makes sense because in Spider-Gwen Smash, in this universe, Dazzler's a pop star.
Katie, huge Marvel fan, pulling out these random books that tie in and everything.
Right.
She knows what's going on.
I don't know if it actually ties in because this is on Gwen's Earth, but I know that Gwen joins Dazzler's band to go on tour with them as her drummer.
Yeah, I don't think that's related.
It might be. You don't know. Nobody knows. There's no information about this series.
No, there isn't, but it doesn't feel like that.
Disagree. No, I'm connecting.
Outside of the fact that Dazzler is a musician character
Yes.
who is usually on some form of tour.
Fun fact, did you know that they were originally going to try to create like a real life Dazzler when they were releasing her character?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, but then disco had already fallen out of fashion and they're like, okay, I suppose we won't do any music with her.
Fun fact, like Dazzler's first appearance is one of the like 30 comics my dad had from when he was a youth, and he gave it to me, so I do own it in my closet.
$150 comic, isn't it? Something like that?
I think that it's not in good condition. None of them are in good condition. So
yeah, one
like,
came through the store
a
year or two ago with a bunch of other cool old X-Men stuff. But yeah, very cool.
Anyway,
I'm here for both a Storm and a Dazzler series, because I have always wanted to be an X-Men girly, and I'm just bad at it. Gambit's my favorite X-Men. Do I know much about him at all?
I
barely.
X-Men are, I think X-Men are interesting. I think they're a good concept. It's just from everything I've heard, they're one of the most obnoxious properties to keep up with. And
I mean, as we heard, there's like 12 ongoing series coming.
Yeah,
up.
like that's a lot. And I think we said we were gonna, because you were really excited about one of the X-Men books, so I think
the Kitty Pryde one.
Do that one. Yeah, so we might do that.
Yeah, I'm very down for that.
So we might do that. But X-Men's not something that I think either one of us is super well adept at. But let's pivot because we have another little bit of news, which is
another little bit of news.
More, I don't know, somber.
In our wheelhouse?
I don't know if this.
I guess you're not saying what I thought you were gonna say.
No. Well, apparently there's news that I botched by not having on this week, but we're gonna talk about Heroes for Brazil, which, if you're not aware about this, there have been a lot of bad floods in Brazil recently. So there is a fundraiser called Heroes for Brazil, where a bunch of awesome comic book creators are kind of auctioning off work and commission pieces, including my good friend and frequent collaborator Elton Tomasi, and a lot of big name artists as well. So if you're interested in any of the artists that I'm about to read out, and you want to get a piece from them, check that out, because money's
Supporting a
going
good
to a good
cause.
place. Yeah, so it's Frank Whiteley, Frank Miller, Raphael Grandpa, Mark Wade, Gary Frank, John Romita Jr., Dan Mora, Brian Hitch, Mark Miller, Greg Capullo, um, Ivan Reyes, Mark Miller, and more. I'm gonna stop there because there are so many more.
Yeah,
But
no,
but
I mean
that's
that
where
is
that's
a
where we'll.
list already, like both
Yeah,
in number
yeah.
and
There's
star
there's a lot.
power. No,
So
that's
yeah,
awesome.
check that out.
Yeah,
I
that
think
is
like
super super cool.
the main, like, I think there was a big auction that happened this weekend, but then going forward, a lot of them are doing commissions that you can
Mhm.
do. I think Elton Tomasi's doing a couple of those, and a few other artists are as well. So you can, check out, get a commission from your favorite artist. A lot of them are doing this at a decent amount below their normal commission rate, so it's a
Mhm.
great opportunity to, get something cool from one of your favorite creators. So yeah.
No, that is so rad.
Do you want to throw whatever you thought I was going to be
Yeah.
saying in here?
As a note to people who are also creators, a new anthology has just opened up a call for submissions.
Ah,
Yeah, we
I
were
don't know why I
literally
didn't think
talking
of putting
about
that
it
on here. I sent it to you
6 hours ago.
yeah. I sent you the link like 3 hours
Yeah.
ago when it went live or whatever. Oh man, no, that was a while ago.
No,
I guess
that
six
was like
hours
six
ago is
hours ago.
probably more accurate. Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah, you give the.
the Museum of the Uncanny has put out a call for submissions. This is from the same people who did Fairy Tales from Mars, right?
Yep,
Wonderful, thank you.
which we both got rejected from.
We sure
No.
did, but that's fine. um,
Yeah.
yeah, they put out their call
I
for
don't hold a
submissions.
grudge.
You can find it on their Twitter, or if you just Google Museum of the Uncanny Anthology, I'm sure it'll pop up. We'll also
Or
include
Bad
the link.
Neighbor Comics.
Yes, Bad Neighbor
Yeah,
Comics. That's
the
the
link
name
will be in
of
the
them.
description.
I was
Yeah.
really hoping when I
Yes.
said the people who did Fairy Tales from Mars, you would jump in with their name. This is
I'm
why they didn't
sorry.
pick me.
I didn't, because it didn't. You did it too casually to where it didn't feel like you were missing something. I was just like, yeah, no, Katie knows what she's talking about.
You're right. I just sound so effortlessly confident. Yeah, so it is
It wasn't
based
until you
around
were
this
like,
concept.
find them at places that I was like, they need that information. Yeah.
Yes.
Anyway,
Thank you.
please give the concept to people. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so it's the concept is that there's this museum full of uncanny objects, and we are writing the stories of those uncanny objects. It's not like you're writing a story in the museum or how it got to the museum or anything. Basically, just going wild with the backstory of this object. For writers, I know it's going to be a description of your item as well as an 8-page script. So you do need that full script ready.
Yep.
For artists, though, I believe it's your portfolio. So yeah, there's I think 32 days before submissions close. So get brainstorming.
Yes, I believe
get
32 and change. So when this goes up, about exactly 30. So
there you go.
Yeah. You got a month.
So yeah, get your creative juices flowing. I know that Jay and I were doing some kind of goofy brainstorming as I was trying to remember if anyone from my workplace listens to our podcast.
By the fact that we were doing, by we were doing goofy brainstorming, Katie means she was throwing things at me, and I was going, Correct. Katie, what the fuck are you talking about? Look, because if you've ever listen, Katie has a very great like initial vibe. She'll go and she does things, but if you are like texting with her instead of talking with her, you will get fragments that don't make any sense.
I am aware
like
of
the
this.
thought in her head makes sense, but what she's sending to you doesn't make sense.
The problem is my hands are slower than my brain.
Fully understandable. It's just a very funny experience to go through.
Well, I am glad that you've stuck around with me and decided to engage in multiple things that are just you deciphering my thoughts.
That's why I'm here.
That's why
it's my only purpose.
It's your only purpose. Just kidding. You're also here to have one brain cell and a bunch of allergies.
That's not even stuff that they've heard. That was in the preamble. So right. You are making references that people don't get.
You know, here's the thing. Curtain pulled back. It's Script Heroes night tonight. We're recording at like
Yes, it
9
is.
p.m. after I
Because it was
did
it
a
was
day of
Mother's
work
Day
and then
weekend.
did work number 2 with the youth of our nation playing Dungeons and Dragons.
The youth of our nation. It was a crazy weekend. I graduated, and then
Congratulations,
it was
everyone.
Mother's
Say
Day.
congratulations
Okay.
in the comments. And my mom, who listens to this, and my aunt, who listens to this, happy Mother's Day. It was yesterday, and I saw you both.
Happy Mother's Day, Mom, and Grandma, and all the mothers who we know. But
shout out your
yeah,
mom in the comments.
Yeah, tag your mom and make her watch the podcast. Even better, throw the podcast up on your TV, watch it with your mom on the couch. Family bonding.
Wonderful.
But the point that we're making is
we
had a very tough time finding. Yeah, we have. we had a hard time getting a time to do this. We are now doing it late at Monday night. Yeah. So
in any case, sorry, it's unhinged. But that's the last bit of news.
So now we can hop over to man, I'm so glad we're not doing back issue reviews and episodes anymore, because Jesus Christ.
We can hop over to the Poll List Rack.
Poll List Rack. This week on the Poll List Rack, we have 6 books for you guys. We're getting way too ambitious with the lack of back issue review.
We sure are. Tune in on Saturday.
We have the highly anticipated, we've talked about it multiple times on this podcast before it's released, The Boy Wonder #1. We also have Crocodile Black #1, Ain't No Grave #1, The One Hand #4, continuing one of our favorite duo series. Is that how we'll phrase it?
Like Morningstar.
Yeah. Morningstar #2, book co-written by friend of the pod, David Andre. Very excited to continue that. And a book by one of my favorite writers in the business, Colin Bunn, Monsters Are My Business #2. But of course, that's not all we pulled this week. Katie, of course not. What else did you get?
I had a bit of a bloated week because we had all 6 of those.
Really?
And then we also had Batman Scooby-Doo Mysteries #5. Batman #147. Mugshots #1, which is I'm very excited for this. It's a new Mad Cave.
That's
book.
the one #1 that you wanted to do that I turned down for the
He was like, "Is this going to be another noir?" And I said, "Maybe." And he said,
"I don't love noir." And also, we couldn't have 7 books, so I had to only pick 2 out of the 3. Anyway,
that is fine.
You know,
I throw a lot of new #1s at Jay. I also pulled Transformers #8 because I'm determined to continue reading it, even if we don't continue to talk about it. Because I'm like, no, I will force myself to become a Transformers kid. Probably not.
Then why didn't we just do it on the pod, Katie?
Because I don't want to read it. It's good.
I asked Katie before this week. I was like, "Do we do Transformers or no?" And she was like, "No, I don't think I'm going to pull it anymore." And now she pulls it out, and she's like, "Here's the
thing, Jay, you've been going to comic book stores rather for so long. It's so upsetting to say, hey, you can remove that from my pull list, actually." Like,
I don't know if I've ever said those words.
Exactly.
Honestly.
It'd be like kicking a puppy. I did it for Invasive. And my comic guy said, "Oh, Invasive is going to be very sad about that." And I said, "Okay, I guess I can't remove anything from my pull list ever."
I love Invasive.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. It just very much was not my cup of tea. But also,
it's very much my cup of tea.
My most anticipated book of the entire week, Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, #6. I caught up on the week that #5 came out. Yeah. Oh my god. It's so good. I am going nuts.
Maybe we'll do that for back issue at some point.
Hell yeah. But Jay,
I'm encouraging
what'd
Katie,
you pick up?
Yes. Book I've been highly anticipating for a long time. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Black, White, and Green #1.
There it is.
I, of course, also got a copy of Transformers #8 because, you know, I love Daniel Warren Johnson's Transformers run. The fixed version of Daredevil #9 came out this week. So
without the, what was it, upside down pages?
No, missing pages.
Right.
And then the Valiants #1, which I only grabbed one of them. I somehow ended up with 2 of these because I was not pulling the book. I never pulled the book, so I grabbed one off the shelf. And I guess because I was pulling Exo Manowar, they decided to pull it for me, and I didn't. I usually would check the books that I pulled, but I was having a crazy week, so I didn't really check. And then when I got to my car, I was like, I have 2 copies of the Valiants. That's fine.
Well, look at that. You're just a Valiant super fan.
I'm a Valiant super fan. I do like Valiant quite a bit, which, yeah, I think it's fun. In any case, though, do you have an order that you would like for the 6?
I sure
books?
do. Normally, when we record the podcast, Jay is much more on top of timing and scheduling than I am, so he does the summaries and all that good stuff and gathers all that info. I think the order in which I put them on the dock, so the order in which we present them.
You want to start with the boy? You want to start with the Boy Wonder? I'm shocked that you. Is it because of the publisher thing? I'm shocked you put the one hand in the middle of the order, because I know
it's
that you
because of the publisher thing. Because I wanted to group the new number ones and then to group that with publisher as well.
So why don't you take us through the order first?
Yeah, so it'll be the Boy Wonder number 1, Crocodile Black number 1, Ain't No Grave number 1, The One Hand number 4, Morning Star number 2, and then Monsters Are My Business and My Business Is Bloody number 2.
I'm more than happy to end with Monsters Are My Business, so
I figured.
Let's roll into it. The Boy Wonder number 1. Young Prince Damien was raised to be the heir to the fearsome League of Assassins, to follow in the footsteps of his deadly mother Talia and the Demon's Head himself, his grandfather Ra's al Ghul. But everything changed when his father, the Batman, reclaimed him and brought him back to Gotham City. When his father is forced to leave the city on urgent business, and a rash of abductions is accompanied by whispers of a demon stalking Gotham's dark alleys, Damien will find himself battling alongside his adopted brothers, and in the process, learning what the Mantle of Robin really means. The writer-artist on the series is Juni Ba of Monkey Meat, Jalaya, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. The colorist is Chris O'Halloran, and the letterer is Adita Bittaker.
I think also does The One Hand.
Yeah. But this has been one of our most highly anticipated, I think, polls for a while, at least on the major publisher side. So I'm very curious to hear what you thought of it.
Yeah. So, 1, I have never actually read any of Juni Ba's stuff before. I'm delighted by the art style. It's very... When I saw it was a Black Label book, we know that this is a misconception that I have, because it happens every time we talk about a Black... probably just about this book specifically. I always anticipate Black Label books being, like, kind of rated M style books.
Oh, okay.
I think this is the because of the Bat Dong. Like, it was like, this is a book where they'll put Batman's dick on the page. So the Black Label is like, for adults or whatever.
I feel like we had this exact conversation when we were talking about the announcement, because I told you, like, in the blurb he said, like, more children folk. Yeah.
It's so cute. It's delightful, like, cartoonish energy that I didn't think... Like, I really enjoy the aesthetic art of, like, Art Baltazar, and, oh man, there's a very connected man to him whose name I'm blanking on, where, like, I think that it's cute, kind of like Scotty Young covers as well. It's like, they're cute, but I don't know that I could, like, sustain them through a whole book, just because it's, like, a little too cute at some points, but I think that this really handles that cartoonish energy well, especially because it's within a framing device of a fairy tale that gives it almost... It's less cartoony and more kind of graphic in that way. Not graphic like violent, but a lot of shapes, kind of like you were looking at it on the side of a jug or something.
The weird thing about it is, like, I don't know if I'm going to phrase this right, but the art isn't really, like, cartoony childish itself. It's more in, like, the way that it's handled, if that makes it, like...
No, that makes a lot of sense.
If you looked at a still image of, like, a character in this art style, my mind would go more to, like, oh, this could be a very graphic, like, more, like, kind of an indie graphic.
Yeah, like,
I'm thinking kind of Daniel Warren Johnson-esque book. Yeah, but when you get it in motion in the book, it then uses like more cartoony physics and like that kind
Mm-hmm.
of stuff. So it's like the way that it's implemented. It doesn't have like that. I think
Yeah.
straight up, like if you see a still of it, I don't immediately go, this is
Yes.
childlike. But when you read the book, you get that like young flair to it, which
Oh
is
yeah.
very evident.
And as
I believe Juni Ba said Darwin Cook is like, there's even a Darwin Cook
that tracks.
quote on the front page. Darwin
Yeah.
Cook is the main influence, I think, and
Mhm.
that feels evident in the book.
Yeah, I would like to point out as a hyper specific example of this that I lost my shit over it every time. When Damien is like moving through the city, he's basically like a little rocket of yellow that's just the outline of his cape to show his movement.
Yeah.
And it's so cute, it's so well done, and it really fits, it fits the vibe so well. And we've talked about this with writer artists before, when you can so directly translate the tone of your writing to the tone of your art, it's just a completely different ball game because you have that direct connection. Obviously there are iconic teams that work together super well, but it's just
Yeah.
something special with writer artists. um Dick is also in this. Who
Yeah. And Babs.
and Babs. And we had a weird reveal about them in this alternate universe that, like, I'm here for. It's fine. I hope it doesn't take over too much. Like, I hope it stays in reference. But yeah, they're both here. This is kind of Damien's first step along his journey of learning what Robin does.
Yeah.
And I'm cautiously optimistic because I feel like so much with the Bat family, they get boiled down and like reduced to something, because it can like so easily become like, oh, the young one, the smart one, the hot one, the angry one. But I was concerned that there would be something like that in here. I really like the way they handled Dick's kind of lesson to Damien and the way that it was presented to Damien and then echoed by Damien to show his growth in that. And so if all of them kind of go that similar path, I think I won't have anything to worry about with that. Especially because it's not something so simple as like a single trait. It very much seems to be based on like an action and a kind of conscious choice that you make. So I was nervous about that, but I'm super excited to see where it's going with the other ones.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought this was really fun. The like you said, the kind of fairy tale. I put like medieval flair
Yes,
to
yeah.
it is really cool. I think it made the captions work really well,
Mm-hmm.
which was great. Because a lot of it was like there wasn't a ton of dialogue in the book, so it was like
Yeah.
a lot of just the visual paired with these captions, and I think it worked well. I'll give one little gripe because I just
Mm-hmm.
want to throw it out
No, for
there.
sure.
I wanted a little bit more. I wanted a little bit more plot. A little bit more
That's fair.
plot. There's like a little bit of setup of what the overarching plot is going to be, and then the very last page kind of
Mm-hmm.
propels it forward. Or maybe the last like 2 or 3 pages when we get like something with an old woman that I won't really spoil,
Mm-hmm.
but like that kind of thing that happens. Like that finally kind of propels it forward a little bit. But a lot of the issue is, it's focused on this lesson in Dick, and it's well done,
Yeah.
but it's just like they set it up, and then on the last page
Right.
they moved it forward. So I was like,
Yeah.
maybe that could have been a little bit more through lined, but it didn't
Mm-hmm.
take away from my overall enjoyment of the book that was very, very high. Yeah.
Same. Yeah.
So
I will say
I don't know.
my
Do
one
you have
little
anything else you want
gripe.
to say, or do you want to slap
Yeah,
the rating on
I
it?
also had a
Oh yeah, yeah.
singular gripe,
Your one little
and
gripe.
it's that I hope
Yeah.
that as the series goes on, we do focus on the individual brothers for one, but I hope that they interact more because we have, so like you said, there's not a ton of dialogue in the book, and we do have like
Yeah.
the transference of Dick's lesson to Damien is so good, but in this Elseworld, Dick and Damien were not Batman and Robin together, and I feel like that's so much of like the heart of their relationship, and I do think that we could have used more direct interaction between the two of them. But I am worried that if we had that, it
Yeah.
would have bogged it down a little bit. So it was kind of a sacrifice.
It's like a method.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like a effect of the storytelling method of the time,
Mm-hmm.
with like the entire book is very much like Damien telling a story,
Mm-hmm.
so like it doesn't leave as much time to like really be in the moments because
Mm-hmm.
the moments are like being told. It's like when you tell a story,
Exactly.
something that usually takes X amount of time is reduced down to however long it takes him to say the thing that happened.
Right.
I don't know
And
if
I
I
think
explained
that
that
might
well,
be one
but
of
that's
the
essentially the
elements
vibe.
that does also make it feel a little bit more kid friendly as opposed to like gleaning their
Yeah, I
relationships
think this.
from their
I
interactions.
think like just to throw out this little bit. I know you're gonna rate it first, but I'll throw this
Oh
out
yeah.
before you rate it. Of like, if we're talking about this for its intended like it's an all ages story, very Darwin Cook. Like everybody should be able to enjoy it, not
Mhm.
just. But if you're looking at it specifically through the lens of like, I need a book for a young kid. There aren't a ton of real comics for young kid. Like I think it nails on that level.
Oh
Like I
yeah.
think you can hand this to a 7, 8 year old, whatever, and I think that they will know exactly what's going on. They
Mhm.
will be so just like locked on to how incredible the artwork is, and I think the simplistic like lesson story will work super well for somebody in that age group.
Agreed. Absolutely. But yeah, rating wise, I gave this bad boy an 8.5 out of 10. I liked it so much. Um, I think that the characterization is really well done. I think that the art is gorgeous. Great across the board. I'm going to give it a pull list rec. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with everything you said, except I give it an 8 out of 10, just that little bit below
We're
you.
always
But
a half step
yeah,
out.
no, I agree with everything. Yeah, but I fully agree with you. Yeah,
Mhm.
it was really great. I would almost guarantee we're gonna do issue 2 on the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, stay tuned. It was very cool, and Juni Ba, very very talented
Very
comic book
talented,
creator.
yeah.
So
Well, going from something that is all ages friendly and very kind of on the page is what you get, we are moving to
yeah.
Crocodile Black #1. Crocodile Black #1. What makes someone turn to crime, especially in a modern pandemic riddled dystopia? Danny, a seemingly mundane young man lost in escapism with a spiraling lack of control over his life, witnesses something during a delivery job that will change him forever, turning things as dark as the black crocodile skin boots that he can't take his eyes off of. This is coming to us from writer Philip Kennedy Johnson, Action Comics, Green Lantern, The Incredible Hulk. The artist is Sam, who's worked on Brigands. The colorist is Patricio Del Peche, and the letterer is Becca Carey. Jay, new #1. I think you're a Philip Kennedy Johnson fan, right?
Yep,
Because you've
I
been
am a big one of
enjoying
my
the
favorite
Green
writers.
Lanterns ones that he's been doing.
He is writing the John Stewart book, but it was the Warworld saga that first turned me on to
Mm,
his work in Action Comics. John Stewart run has been very good. And I even started picking up Incredible Hulk because he was
sweet.
writing that. So yeah, Philip Kennedy Johnson is a very, very talented writer. So when Katie recommended this, or when Katie suggested this for a new #1, I saw Philip Kennedy Johnson. I was like, okay, yeah, let's do it. And
How did it turn
yeah, I'm
out?
kind of glad I did. This was a really cool book. I like this book a lot. I it's weird. I'll
Mhm.
throw that out to start. It's a weird book,
It is.
and kind of every aspect of it follows that. If that makes sense. Like the art's a little weird, but I really kind of like it. So it was
Mhm.
like I was unsure for the first few pages, and as we went on, like I got the storytelling through like the way that this art looked. I was like, oh no, this works really really well. I'm really
Mhm.
here for it. It's real. It's got a really good like opening kind of transition into what the main story is going to be, because we kind of we start forward and then we move back to kind of see how we got there, which is
Mhm.
really cool.
And then
And
jump
then
forward
like the
again.
best thing in yeah, at the end,
Mhm.
kind of end, not like, you know what I mean, going into the end sequence. Uh, the characters are just written like really realistically, which
Mhm.
I've read a lot of Philip Kennedy Johnson, and like I've always thought he was a good character writer, but this is just a very different aspect of that because it's usually superheroes and like
Right.
interacting with superheroes like that, and it's a very different vibe to like see him write these very human characters, and like we get the, I think it's like, you know, your stereotypical like writing exercise, like you know, characters arguing in a family, you know, meal,
Right.
and it's just like I would show somebody like this is a masterclass of like how you get very realistic characters in that
Mhm.
setting, and that scene really is what sold me. I was like, okay, no, now I'm really invested and I'm
Mhm.
here for these characters. And I just think Danny in general is super intriguing. And we get like a phone call between him and what I assume is like some sort of therapist or something. And that is like one of the main like devices used to get information on him as a character, and it
Mhm.
works really really well. So yeah, I was really gripped by this, and I was like, I'm in.
Yeah, no, one thing that I want to say specifically about the art, there are instances of hallucinations in this book, and I think they're done super, super well. They're super, like, exciting looking. They by no means feel like they're a part of the real world, so we're not hallucinating with Danny. We know that Danny is hallucinating these things, and I think that it's done really
Yeah,
effectively in that way. Like you said, it's weird,
when he's like
and
eating out of the
yeah, yeah, there's a lot of really cool surrealist
yeah,
imagery going on that is just incredibly rad.
yeah,
And I think that the art is really, really a strong point of this book. My hang up with it is that the parts that I liked best, with like Danny interacting with his family and those kind of like confusing surrealist feelings, I feel like those might not be the bulk of the book just because we move forward in time again at the end. So I'm worried that that's not
yeah.
going to be as focal as I would want it to be, because I think that's where the, like you said, that's, it's really
Fair
well done
concern.
and it feels like the strength of the book.
Yeah,
And at the end of the book, it just doesn't feel like that's the part that the book is going for, which then also makes me feel like we didn't get enough of what the meat of the book is actually going to be. Um, so I am concerned
that's
about
a fair
that,
concern.
and it just
I'm
it didn't
curious if we're gonna
hook
keep
me as
jumping back and
well.
forth.
I would hope so. I'm
Hmm.
certainly going to be picking it up, but you know, you go first. Hit us with a rating.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I gave this an 8.5 out of 10. I thought this was really good. I liked it. I was invested. It's really because they sold me so much on Danny as a like main character that
Mm-hmm.
I want to follow. And I just really ended up enjoying the art a ton by the end. So I was like, you know what? I'm here for this. This route. Your concern is super fair, but I think I made the assumption that we were gonna just keep jumping back and forth. And if
Mm-hmm.
that is the case, I am perfectly happy to keep jumping back and forth. If your concern is met and we don't get more of what I do agree is the most interesting part of the book, which is the interaction with the family and kind of how we got there, if that does go away, I do think I'll sour on the future of the book,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't think that's where we're going. So
That's
I'm going to go
fair.
8.5 out of 10, and I'm going to give it a Polis rack.
No, I think that's super fair. I wasn't as jazzed on it. I gave it a 6.5 out of 10, mostly because for an issue one, I didn't feel super hooked. Like, there were parts of it that I liked a lot,
That's fair.
but none of it made me feel like I really wanted to follow the story with any sort of anticipation. Um, but I did like it a lot. Again, the art was super good, and I am going to keep picking it up. I would say that if you're looking for something weird, grab it, but I'm not going to give it kind of a unilateral pull list direct for my
That's
for
fair.
this week. But next up is another new number one that
The other
has the
one Katie
benefit of
pushed a little bit.
yes, that's right,
Being a double
uh,
sized, yeah.
of being a double sized,
I
yeah,
assume
which
that's
we
where you were
have
going.
sung
Yeah.
our praises about before. But we're gonna go talk about Ain't No
Yeah.
Grave.
Ain't No Grave, number one. Ryder put her violent past behind her when she fell in love and became a mother, but that was before she learned it was all going to be taken away. Now she'll have to pick up her guns once again and ride to kill the one who's behind the threat. The writer is Scotty Young of I Hate Fairyland, Middle West, The Me You Love in the Dark, and Rocket Raccoon. The artist is Jorge Corona of Middle West, The Me You Love in the Dark, Nightwing, and The Flash. The colorist is Jean-Francois Ballou, and the letterer is Nate Picos. So, Katie, I think you were quite excited for this, at least from when you were selling me on it. And it's a double-sized 40-page book. What'd you think?
My first note for this book in my little little
Mm-hmm.
thing of notes to reference is, oh
Mm-hmm.
boy, this is right up my alley, isn't it? I went apeshit for this book immediately. The I don't even know where to begin. I mean, one, we
There's a
love a
lot.
double sized first
There's just a
issue.
lot. Yeah.
I want to start with the art, which, you know, panel to panel, gorgeous, wonderful. I love the style. Specifically, shout out to Jean Francois Bellou. The rendering on these is astonishing. I love the way that they all come together. I feel like it fits with Corona's style so well. And what really just blew my brains, I I don't know why that's what I went with, was the layouts on the pages. It all feels
Yeah.
so it's such a weird thing to say, but it all feels so intentional. Like everything feels like it was put together with so much care and excitement, and it feels so distinct. Like I feel like you could,
Yes,
set out,
yes.
yeah, right, a bunch of different books
No,
and be
like
like, okay,
that was the point to hit
yeah,
right there.
exactly. It feels so distinct. They do all of these cool kind of returning motifs of like collapsing boxes that don't immediately, like if you open to a random page, it doesn't necessarily jump out at you immediately, but going through the entire book, seeing the way that all of these pages work together, and just like a small detail, and this is such a goober thing to do, but it just excited me so much, is the incredibly imperfect lines around the panels. Like it all feels so
Mm,
like it feels so hand done and so like cohesive with the rest of the book. It's all got so much energy to it. I got very excited about the art in this book.
I
Would you
this
like to
this
speak
this
about
book
something?
I was yeah, man. There's so much to say about this book.
Right?
The reason I want to say is I am so glad that you suggested this book because this was
Mm-hmm.
awesome. Um, and the next thing I want to say is because you kind of started going here, but you didn't say it, so I get to say it. Just every aspect of this book works so well together, like to the
Mm-hmm.
writing, to the art, to the coloring, to the lettering, which is
Yes.
phenomenal, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Everything comes together in just making this book beautiful. Everything feels so intentional and perfect. And I'm going to say something really weird here, and I'd be interested to hear if you agree or if you even think it makes sense.
Okay.
This is how do I phrase? I'm gonna say it. This is a 40-page issue,
Yeah.
but this is a 20-page issue. Does
Right?
that make
It
sense?
moves so.
Like it's no. So let me finish like the point that
Yes.
I'm trying to
Yeah.
get at here is that they didn't use the 40 pages to give you more.
Mm-hmm.
They used the 40 pages to make things take up more space, if
Yes.
that makes sense. Like we get pages and pages with little motion, a dialogue conversation that most issue ones would have to be, contained in a page goes for 2, 3 pages. Like they just everything's longer. There's entire
Yeah.
pages of just scenery or stuff like this.
I
There's
was gonna
not
say
any page that's
specifically
like
with
stuffed with
that
dialogue.
is so much gorgeous environment happening. And that's one of the things that
Oh
I
yeah.
really wanted to hit on again with the fucking art, because the art is absurd in this. It all is
Yes.
like, obviously every single panel that every artist ever makes
Beautiful.
has composition to it. Everything in this feels so like gorgeously photographically composed, and it's within all
Yeah.
of these very different sizes and aspects of panel boxes, and each one of them feels so beautifully done. We get so much really good like black negative space in so many of them. We get so much gorgeous like just wild west vibe. Like it really does feel like she has crossed a fucking desert in this issue, because we move with her through it, and it all feels so vast and so like well done and
Vast
so
is a great word for it.
right. Oh, and that isn't even
Yeah.
to touch on how well done the characterization is and how cool the action
Yeah.
and the world building we get from like the plot itself and the writing is. I would die for
Yeah.
Ryder from page one.
Every note of it. And then like the family is so well done. Like
Mm-hmm.
the moment of her leaving and the kid is so like heart-jerking for like characters you don't know. Like it really hits on all the notes really 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 well. And yeah, the pacing is just great. It's absolutely paced as if it's a 20-page issue though, which
Right?
is just a wild thing to do, and I'm so here for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's really cool. And then let me throw out one more thing of like, firstly, don't read the goddamn summary of this book
No.
before you read it because I don't know who
We
the hell wrote
literally
that blurb.
retook our
Um,
introduction to the book to remove a massive
yeah,
fucking
because I was like,
spoiler.
we're not putting that in the blurb. But the thing that shouldn't be in the blurb is one of the best first issue enders you will read.
Mm-hmm. What a
So good. I
reveal.
always love
Oh
to
my
call out a
god.
god tier issue ender. This is a god tier issue ender,
It
and it
is.
really really hooks you. Because I was hooked from fairly early on, but I was a little bit on like the what's actually going on with the plot here? Why is she
Mhm.
like leaving with the family? Like, this justification doesn't really make sense. I'm a little bit lost on why this character is actually doing what they're doing. And then like just the absolute moment of where the perfect balance of keeping you on the hook long enough where you're like, oh, maybe this is bad because this doesn't make sense, and then revealing this all makes sense. Like,
Yeah.
this is the right time to do it. Like, we've talked about this in other
Yes.
books where it goes on for like 4 or 5 issues and you're like, no, I just don't like the book anymore. One
Mhm.
issue is the perfect amount of time to play with you where you're like, do they have this
Especially an
figured
extra
out?
long one.
Is this supposed to be? Yeah, like it's like, because you're still debating it when you get the reveal. You never get
Yeah.
to the point where you're like, they just don't know what they're doing,
Mhm.
So more at the
No,
end. But do you want to slap a rating on it first,
I
and then
mean,
I'll
I
slap a
don't think
rating
it's
on
gonna
it?
be a surprise after all of my fucking gushing. This is hitting a 9.5 for
Yeah.
me. I really like this so much. Literally, my only gripe is I hope she gets some stellar supporting cast to interact with, and I think she will.
Yeah.
I Oh, this is so good. I can already feel it in my bones. This is gonna be my new Zorro. I'm so glad it's gonna be literally the week
Oh
after
yeah.
Zorro ended.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We
this
will
is
certainly be talking about this book more.
Oh yeah, and this is
Yeah.
absolutely a pull list wreck. Grab this book; it's so good, it's so gorgeous. You're
Oh
gonna want
yeah.
to be at the start of this ride.
Oh yeah. Full Polish rack. Do not read the blurb. Read the book.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I give it a 9 out of 10, mainly because of like the lack of like true like antagonist in this issue. Was like I
Mm-hmm.
said, like it was very good that we got the reveal at the end, and it made me. But during the book, I was a little bit like looking for that
No, I get that.
antithesis for figuring out what the plot was. Not enough to take away the enjoyment, but just that's why it's a 9. There's my
Yeah,
little justification for why it's a
I
9 for
feel
me
like
instead
there's
of
never a
9.5.
need
But
to justify a 9 and up. Like that's just fucking good.
yeah, yeah, no, it's great. It's great. So yeah,
Well, speaking of books that
let's
we
move
like
on.
a whole lot, it is time for
Yeah.
The One Hand. Number 4. The One Hand. Number 4. The hunt for the new one-hand killer is nearing its end, and Detective Ari Nasser only needs to uncover one final clue. But secrets run deep in New Novena, and the one-hand killer isn't the only person that wants to shut Ari down. Permanently. The writer here is Ram V of Detective Comics, Swamp Thing, and Justice League. The artist is Lawrence Campbell of the Hellboy universe, The Punisher, and Deadpool Pulp. The colorist is Lee Luridge, and the letterer is Aditya Bidikar. Jay, goddamn, do we like the one
Yeah.
hand and the six fingers?
And the Six Fingers, the duo series.
The duo series.
Um,
How are you feeling about number 4?
yeah, we're off to the races now, man. The books are
Right?
really connecting. The plot, we get maybe more plot movement in. At least if we're looking at the one hand without the Six Fingers, because I think the Six Fingers has done a really good job with moving the plot forward a lot in every issue. The
Mhm.
one hand, I think, has been a little bit more like granular,
Yeah, yeah.
gradual in its build. I think we get more plot movement in this issue of the one hand than like the first 3. Like,
Yeah.
this issue runs,
This is fucking ramping.
and it's awesome. And we get my favorite thing, which is a page layout being the symbols. I think that's the coolest goddamn thing. I think
So
the way the
rad.
symbols are like incorporated in this is so ridiculously cool. I love the plot build. I really like us getting the. Is it Helen? Right again. I like the way that Helen came
Helene.
back and the way that she was intertwined in this issue. Helene, sorry, the way that Helene came back and was intertwined in this issue got me really excited and interested. Yeah, I was really on board for this issue. I thought it worked fantastically well.
Yeah.
And that which is we're really everything's coming together.
Everything's coming together. Both hands. Like you said, I feel like
Both
the
hands.
biggest
One with
boon
6
of this
fingers
book,
and one with 5.
there you go, is how much it's ramping up to that conclusion. This is the penultimate issue of this series. There's, of course, going to be 4 and 5 of the Six Fingers as well, because I don't actually know that. I'm assuming there is.
There's 6 of each. I'm fairly certain.
I think it said to be concluded at the end of this, didn't it?
Did it?
To be
I
concluded.
thought there was 6 of each.
No,
Huh.
5 of each.
Wow,
One for
I thought
each
that
finger.
I was-
Maybe
I
they'll do
was-
a little bonus one for the sixth finger.
Maybe.
But no,
Maybe the 6 fingers is 6 because of that. No? Are they both?
There you go. I
Fine,
guess we'll
yeah.
find out. Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
just stupid.
this is
Yeah.
such good ramp. This feels like a penultimate issue. Like everything is coming to
Yeah.
a head. Everyone is turning on our main character. He's, so fucking close to the edge of everything, and it really is just a powder keg that's ready to blow in the next one. And I think that this is probably my new favorite issue of the One Hand. Um, because like you said, there's been a lot of kind of detecting and not a lot of moving, and so much is really coming together here. And this is a book and a series that really so much benefits from like serialized media. Like getting this book every month has been
Yes.
such a treat. Like it's one of those things where you are able to
Yeah.
hold on to those details, and they're brought back and they're repeated in a way that makes them important and memorable, and everything is delivered in such a good like monthly package. It's
And
really
the
the
nice thing
type
is
of
because of
thing.
like the
Yeah,
alternating, we're essentially getting like an episode like every 2 weeks
exactly.
of
Instead of
like
having to wait
this
that
thing,
full
which is just
month.
really cool.
Yeah, it's
Yeah. Yeah.
this
But I don't
this
think it
book has
actually
just
is it
been
every 2 weeks, or I think they actually come out 1 week after each other. I don't think it's a 2 week space, right? Didn't we do the Six Fingers last week, or am I misremembering that?
I don't know. It's also one of those weird things where if it's like week 1 and 3 or something, and or like if they did it on odd weeks for one and even we, it
Yeah.
could be a weird thing in terms
Yeah.
of how many or Wednesdays there are in a month. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's really just
In
it's
any
really
case,
built over the issues, and this is I think a
yes,
book
one
where
hundred
you
percent.
really feel it build over the issues. Like this is
I
not
fully agree with you.
written for the trade. This is written to be read.
Yes, but I'm also really excited to read it
Oh,
as a
same.
collected
Yeah.
edition.
I'm just
To like
really,
go
really,
through and
really
see
excited
it
that
all
we
like
like get to
building
read
together.
it as monthly chunks.
No, this was such a good idea to do on the podcast, especially
Hmm.
because like we after we did the One Hand, we were having the debate of whether or not we should also do the Six Fingers because we were unsure of how integral they were going to be
Right.
to each other and everything. And it was such a good decision to cover both of these on the podcast all the way through. Like
Oh
it's
yeah.
such a cool thing to be on the entry level to get to discuss every 2 weeks, whatever it is, and
Yeah.
just keep getting to see the way that it's going as the world keeps like breaking and getting weirder. Like we went all the way back to when we were first talking about this, like we were pulling up conspiracy theories of like
Yeah.
Twitter threads and like being like, oh, this guy
Because it's
thinks
such a
that it's
fun
like a
book to
Matrix
interact
thing, and
with.
is that yeah, this is I think they've achieved something that's pretty hard to do in modern comics, which
Mm-hmm.
is to get there to be like consistent discussion about a book as it's coming out.
Mm-hmm.
So just
So that being
home
said,
run on that front.
are you ready to jump
Yeah.
into numbered ratings?
Yeah, I am. Am I starting this one off? Is that
You
where
are
we're
starting
at?
this one off.
Okay. Yeah, I really liked it. It's maybe my favorite issue of the One Hand. Still, I just something about the way that the Six Fingers is structured, the creative team, whatever. It's just a little
Yeah.
bit more to my liking. So this is a little bit lower for like a best issue of the thing is. So I give this a 9 out of 10. I like this
Hell
a
yeah.
lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Not a
Don't
Polistrack.
grab
Yeah.
issue 4 without reading. Yeah.
No.
Get the collected edition. Buy go back and get the issues.
No,
Just
no, 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 no.
read
That
this
exactly.
as
You need
intended.
to go get issues 1 through 4 and
Yeah,
1 through 3 of the Six Fingers, so you can read them before they come out, so that you can join in the serialized media experience that we're all enjoying. Because you literally
Yes,
cannot
yes.
do that once it's over, which is
That's
so
true.
horrifying, and why I buy every fucking new number one that I can, because I'm like I want to read it monthly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I also gave this a 9 out of 10. I think that this is just such a good issue for Rampin'. It's so exciting.
fully
Everything
agree.
feels like it's coming together. I dig it so much. But yeah, number 4, not a pull list rec.
Yeah.
Um,
When you're doing like a mystery build, like pulp books in
exactly.
general, like don't work usually to jump on later. So
Right.
yeah.
But that being said, we have another
Yeah.
wonderful book to talk about next. Are you ready for Morning Star number 2?
Morning Star number 2. Young Charlie Garrett has vanished into the Kootenai forest. Together with her teen daughter, Maribeth, Jolene Garrett launches a frantic search through the surrounding Montana wilderness to find her missing boy. There's only one thing more powerful than grief, and that's a mother's will to protect her children. A will fueled by the loss of her husband and fortified by the gleaming blade of her ex. The writers, we got a team of co-writers on this book of Tim Daniel and David Andre. Some of their books are End After End and Denizen. The artist on this series is Marco Finnegan of 007 and Night People. The colorist is Jason Wordy, and the letterer is Justin Birch. We were very intrigued by issue 1, I think is basically how we had put it. But the plot hadn't really gotten off the ground. It kind of has now. So I'm interested where you landed on this issue.
I am so delighted by, like, forest horror. Like, horrifying to me. I'm so bad at scary things. But, like, it's giving Over the Garden Wall, which is phenomenal, and also has that kind of, like, spooky forest energy.
Not to continue to derail, as we've done a ton today. I'm wondering when you started saying it's giving so much on our podcast, because I cannot keep a straight face when you say it, because it makes me think of just all of the cringiest teenage girls.
Here's the thing, I think it's one of those horrible things that started off ironically, but then I said it too many times, and now it's just part of my vernacular.
Yeah.
I didn't realize I was doing it so often. Oh no, I'm gonna puke.
You said it, I think, on like half the polls so far this week. That's why I felt the need to point it out this time.
It's alright. I think that the beautiful nighttime lighting is hiding how much I'm blushing right now. That is horrible. I hate it.
I'm so sorry.
Okay, it's alright. I'm gonna power through. I'm gonna kill myself, but I'm gonna power through. In any case, it's giving Over the Garden Wall. Which I know that we talked about previously when we talked about Elijah Wood's imprint, and you had never seen Over the Garden Wall and have still never seen Over the Garden Wall.
Yes.
But it's also got that kind of like, there's something spooky happening in this forest vibe, which, did I say it again? I think I did. Oh God, it really is just so subconscious now.
I've made you so aware of it now. I'm so sorry.
You've made me so aware of it. I've achieved sentience. I've like been pulled out of my bath of irony. In any case, we get to see more of the forest happening here, and I think that's going to be where the book really, really shines, in these kind of surrealist, unsettling, uncanny, if you will, vibes happening out in the woods with the mother and daughter separated as they're looking for the son. And I think that is so cool, and I'm really excited because we really hit on that at the very end of the issue, and it has me so hyped for issue 3. And I feel like that's something that I felt with issue 1 as well, where they give these little breadcrumbs, these little nuggets of the weird world that we're going to be experiencing. And it makes me really,
it has
really
like good forward momentum, if that makes sense.
How did you feel? What did you feel that this book was giving?
Great art. Is that a weird thing to throw out as like the, because I really like the art. The like, I want to hit, just to get way too specific for a review, the 2-page spread of them spreading the ashes is like one of the most gorgeous comic book pages I've ever seen. Like, that is just up there with some of the most beautiful. Like, I would put a poster of that on my wall. Like, that is just a perfect comic book page. So yeah, we talked about this issue, and I love just the retro styling and everything, and just the choices made here with the coloring and the art and everything. Fantastic. I really, really, I enjoyed this issue. I'm not going to try to remember what I rated the first one, so I don't know if I'll rate it higher, but I think I enjoyed this more than the first issue, but I enjoyed the first issue, but I just enjoyed this even more, I think.
Yeah.
It's got good forward momentum is how I put it when you were speaking, and I think that's the main thing. Like, it's got good forward momentum. The characters are super intriguing.
They are.
I like kind of the characterization that comes across in their dialogue so easily and like effortlessly. The plot really starts moving in this issue, which is great.
Yeah, literally my only gripe with it is that it does feel short. Like, I don't feel like it moves very quickly within the issue. And I do wish that we had some more kind of lingering moments, like that scene with the ashes
Yeah.
spreading. Great, full 2-page spread where we really get to kind of sit with that emotional moment. I just wish that we had a few more of those kind of slowed down places where we aren't moving forward as much. And
Yeah.
with, I don't know if this is just me being a goober, but I feel like with like nighttime comes more of that kind of quiet anticipation. So I'm hoping that if we have like them wandering the woods at night or something, there will be a lot of those like really tension building sequences. Fingers crossed, because that's like my one
Yeah.
thing, is that I wish that the book didn't move so quickly.
No, that's super fair. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I think you get to stop waiting on this one
Oh,
first,
you're
so
right. I am.
let's
I
hear
am
it.
first. I gave this guy a 7 out of 10. I really like it. We talked to David about it. We know how much care and love and excitement and just genuine
Yeah.
passion is put into this from every step of the team. It's coming across so well. I dig it so much.
Yeah.
Issue 2, not a
Yeah.
pull list rec, but issue 1 probably on the shelves. You're only one behind. Pick it up.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Actually,
be fairly similar. I'm gonna push back on the pull list rec thing,
yeah,
because
that's
I
kind of why
think
I
that
paused
you
there.
can hop on here. Because actually, something
Yeah,
that I didn't hit here that I probably should have in the is we get great backstory on the
yeah,
father slash husband in this issue, which is why I think this is a pretty approachable issue too.
yeah.
Like I think you get a lot of what you need here. So I'm gonna call this a pull list rec
I'm actually
myself,
going
and
to
I went just
change my
a half
answer
step
and call it a
above you
pull list
here.
rec.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So do a pull list rec, fantastic. But yeah, I give this 7.5 out of 10. I really enjoyed this. I thought this
Yeah,
was quite good. And I'm
absolutely.
very excited for issue 3 because there's some stuff going on that
Oh,
I am
yeah.
quite intrigued by. And I also just love the art in this book so
It's
much.
so
So,
great.
yeah. Right?
Yeah, so an official pull list rec. Absolutely.
Yes.
Like you said, it was like my
We got one
instinct
more.
to go, like, it's issue 2. It's not a pull list rec. But I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
It is. You're right.
Yeah, you
But we
said
do
that,
have
and I
one
was
more.
like, you said it like it's not the fact that you said it, but you said it with like no justification.
I
You
said it
just
with
were like,
no
it's obviously not a
justification.
polar effect because it was issue 2, and I was like, what?
I think it's one of those things where, like, I
I was like, 'cause
really liked
usually you would
issue
give an
1.
explanation.
It's one of
Yeah,
those things where, like, of
like you
course
just
you're going to
usually
read
give an
issue 1.
explanation with yourself.
You heard how much we
Yeah,
gushed
yeah,
about it
yeah.
last month. Of course you picked it up.
And everybody listens to like I don't think there's ever been a case where we've told people to pull a book and not everybody who's listened to the episode has obviously gotten and read the book because
Yes,
we
they
have that
have
kind of
immediately
influence.
stood
Yeah,
from their lovely breakfast or whatever and gone and camped outside their local
yeah.
comic shop until they could get
Do
the
you
book.
think do you picture most of the people watching our podcast, listening to our podcast, eating breakfast?
Yes. Enjoy your
Okay.
breakfast, everyone. Let's talk about Monsters Are My
let's
Business.
let's talk about monsters in my business. Yeah.
Monsters Are My Business, and My Business is Bloody. Number 2. For a guy like Grizz, killing monsters comes easy. Saving monsters, that's a whole new ballgame. But that's what Grizz and his chainsaw-wielding koala partner Cuddles have to do. Save a monster from a terrible fate. But rescuing hideous beasts from their awful fates is a dangerous business, especially when your own past is complicated.
What?
The writer here is Cullen Bunn of Green Lantern Lost
That
Army,
is.
Ghost Lore, and The Sixth Gun. The artist is Patrick Piazzalunga. Happy Horror Days, Project Patron, and Captain America Forever Allies. The colorist is Marco Bracco, and the letterer is Jim Campbell. Jay, this was
Yeah.
a you installed ad to the pull list, I think, right?
Yes. I have a few creators who I just pull everything that they do, and Cullen Bunn is one of them. I am within another week or two going to be pitching Katie on another Cullen Bunn book that I want us to do on the podcast.
Amazing.
But yeah,
I hope it's
I
not
love Cullen Bunn
scary.
stuff. So
Because I'm a wimp.
everything Cullen Bunn does is at least a little horror tinged, but they're not
mean,
all scary. You know, like this one isn't scary, but it's got horror
that's fair.
elements.
And
I
like,
guess
I
Gotcha
liked
Man
Invasive.
didn't have
It
any
just scared
horror
me.
elements. Invasive is so good. It's
I'm sure.
so good.
I bet.
But anyway, monsters are my business. We're in issue 2.
Yes.
we got thrown into action right off the bat here. We got thrown into a wild creature that I instantly loved.
Right.
Along with the fact that I love this koala.
Good old Cuddles.
So yeah, Cuddles. Man,
Here's
the
the thing.
the
Cuddles
art in this
flipping the
book,
camera off.
I love more and
Amazing.
more with every page. Yeah, I love the art in this book more and more. Like just everything we get with it, the monster that we get, goat head, is it or something like that?
Yes.
Goat head, awesome. The creature that they're saving with eyeballs on his rump, awesome.
And on his little head of eyeballs scares the shit out of me. It like makes me want to puke in a really good way.
I this book is like just a fun time, but it's such a fun time.
It's such a fun time.
And it's got a really good issue ender. Right? Like a little weird, but a very good issue ender. Which I talk about issue enders way too much for, you know, a spoiler-free review where we can't actually talk about what they are. But I think issue enders are very important.
They are.
And the dialogue. Cullen Bunn is one of the best dialogue writers, I think, in comics. And this is such a different atmosphere of dialogue from him than what I'm used to, like either his serious horror books or like his superhero stuff. But just whatever the vibe is, I think he's got an uncanny ability to just nail dialogue for that tone. So yeah, I really, really enjoyed this. I'm interested to hear how you felt.
No, yeah, the thing that I keep coming back to with this book is how much fucking charisma it has. Like it is wacky, it is action packed, it's over the top, but it never feels obnoxious. It always feels like just the right amount of charming to justify the weird things that are happening with it. It really is just, it's so appealing, it's so exciting. I am digging it so much. It's so high energy. Yeah. It really just it's just fun. And that is such a good thing for things to be. Cause like to come off of like Who Boy right up my alley, something like Ain't No Grave is so up my alley. Love it. Good time. It's also like, you know, a little serious, a little like
depressing at times.
A little depressing. Like she has tuberculosis or whatever. That's
has to say goodbye to her child, and yeah.
This is uncomplicated fun, which is frankly the best kind of fun. Like it's such a good time. Agree. And I feel like I keep saying just a good time or whatever, but it's not that it's only a good time. It's the thing is that the good time is like the priority, and they keep just hitting that good time button over and over and over.
I don't think either one of us saying just a good time in a disparaging way. It's in like this book knows what it's trying to do, and it's doing it exceptionally well.
Exactly. Yeah. No, such a hoot, and also a half. I am digging it so much. I feel so bad. I was scouring trying to find her name real quick. Supporting character.
Your favorite?
I would die for her. She's a lady. And I love her, and I want
she to gets be a great her wife. Moment at the end.
She's so cool. I have such a crush.
And it's just where I come back to like the fact that I just love this art. The more stuff that Patrick does with it, like just and it's also Patrick has such an energy in the way that he draws like action and powers and creatures. Like there's an energy that just gets me so excited.
Everything feels so dynamic. Everything's moving. Ugh.
I get legitimately hyped, like in a way, like as if I'm watching a movie or something that's like like I'm like go like I'm like rooting for movement when there is no, like it's got such a feeling of like movement and fluidity to it, and I love it so much.
Absolute.
This is such
time and a half to read. What is the numbered rating you would throw upon this book?
I'm gonna throw out the one caveat of up until like the final couple pages, the plot doesn't really move in this book, and we don't really get much in terms of stakes in like the initial battle. And I'm not meaning like any crazy, but like the kind of initial fight chase stuff just is a lot of like fun, you know, without us getting much of that. So that's my little caveat. Love this issue. Love this series so far. I'm gonna throw a 7.5 out of 10 on it.
We match on this guy. I also gave this a
Yeah,
7.5. I think that you kind of hit the nail there. Like in the first issue, we had the kind of fake out with Cuddles' death. And I feel like
yeah.
anytime you have a fight at the start of your issue, there's going to be a kind of I can feel how much book is left, and we just saved this guy, so I feel like we're probably not going
Yeah.
to lose him right now. So there is kind of that, which makes it a little harder for it to feel as high stakesy, but it was still fun and exciting to escape.
Yeah.
So it's still
I'm
just a
debating
good
the
time.
Polish Rec side of it right now.
I would say
Because
pick
it
up
does
issue
feel
one first.
approachable.
I think it feels approachable. I think it would be very confusing to have the fella there. And
Yeah.
I think
That's
that
kind of
with
where,
the
yeah.
kind of world
And
building
you
that
don't
we
get the
got in number
introduction
one,
of the
where
woman whose name we're not remembering. Like, I feel like
yes,
she'd be
yeah,
a little bit of a weird,
mm-hmm.
like, grab in here. Yeah, I'd say grab issue one.
I
Grab
say
issue
grab
one.
issue one. Yeah,
It's only one issue out. You should be able to get issue one, I think.
exactly,
It's a dark
exactly.
horse. It's Dark Horse, right?
It is Dark Horse.
It's a Dark Horse Cullen
You
Bunn
can
book.
get
You can
issue
probably
one.
get a copy of issue one. Yeah. So get issue one. I love this. This is so cool. It's just a
It's
cool
so
book
good.
that I really, really am
so
enjoying.
good.
Yeah.
But
This was a
that is
fucking
going to take
great week.
us right. Absolute knockout
Such
after
good comic
knockout.
books this week. Yeah.
That is going to take us to the end of our pull list rec, though, which means it's time to go
For the creator corner.
to the creator corner. All right, gang, here we are in the creator corner where we sit back, relax, talk about making comics, talk about being comic makers, talk about all that goes into our side of writing comic book scripts. Chamber, you are now a collegiate graduate.
That is an accurate statement.
That is an accurate statement. First of all, congratulations, everyone! Give tiny, tiny claps to Jaybird in the comments. Uh, you got 2 degrees. That's so impressive. I'm so proud of you. But Jay, that
Sure.
meant that for the past, 4 years, but however long the podcast has been going on, you have been both a full-time student and writing comic books. What?
Yeah.
Crazy. I would love for us to have a little frank discussion about the fucking meat grinder that it is to be basically working a second job by, following your dreams, is the florid
Yeah.
way that I will put it.
I mean, I toned it down a bit this year, which I think we talked. I think you did to some extent too.
Yeah.
But we toned down because there was a lot of, at least I'll say on my end, but I think we had a mutual conversation about this. I think you did it first, and I kind of followed
Yeah.
suit. Is kind of what it was, to focus on creator owned and like
Yes.
our own stuff, because that's important to actually make it into this industry. But for a solid 3 years, from freshman year through junior year, like I was kind of going crazy with the freelance writing. So it was like I wrote it in, I think it was my sophomore year. Across 12 months, I wrote 150 comic book scripts,
Insane.
which is a lot, to
That's
say
a
the
lot.
least. So I would usually describe people as it did feel like essentially going to college and working a full-time job at the same time, which was not,
because that's essentially what it is.
yeah, and create your own stuff on top of that, like if you want to do anything. And then like now we do the podcast, so that's like, even though I've turned down the freelance stuff, like now we got the podcast too, so it's just things that you obviously work an actual job,
have a full-time job.
Yeah,
and
you work a job along with freelancing, and then create your own stuff and the podcast, and that sense, and doing D&D for the youth. So like, you do a ton of shit. So
it was a very weird like holiday season, like 2021 or whatever, because it's like, oh, Katie, we haven't seen you in 3 years because of COVID or whatever. What have you been up to? And I'm like, okay, well, I am writing comic books freelance. I am ghostwriting full-length novels also freelance. I am running like 4 tables of Youth Dungeons and Dragons after work on the days when I am working at the bookstore. So it was a lot on a singular
Yeah.
plate. Um,
Yeah.
and one thing that was interesting about it, because it's something that I find very fascinating to kind of compare and contrast. It's one of those things where when you are doing writing as a job, that means you're probably writing every single day because you have to,
Yeah.
which is good for, developing your writing skills. And, I had my degree that said she's good at writing enough to get
Yeah.
a degree in it at least. Um, but it's one of those things where you are in that practice space. And it's a bit of a double-edged sword, at least in my experience, because I also found that meant that I was getting a little bit formulaic. I was getting a little bit kind of like, I know what the story is supposed to look like and I will write it to
Yeah.
be that, instead of
Yeah.
this is where the story wants to go and I'll figure out what the energy of it is and follow that, which is a very froofy thing to say, but writing is a creative
Yeah.
thing, and it's
Yeah.
ironically very hard to describe. And
Yeah.
on top of just, the stresses of
Oh yeah.
just never turning my brain off. Um, so it's a wild thing to be doing a creative career alongside just like normal person work, whether that's school or just a quote unquote 9 to 5. Um,
Work. Yeah.
exactly. So, what did you find was an important balance that you had to figure out how to strike when being a student
Yeah,
and
so
a
just
writer?
to like set the table here, like you hit 150 at the peak. Some of that was shorter stuff. So I'd say
Mhm.
typically about what it looked like was one full length script or that level of stuff, 24 pages, whatever, every 3 days.
Yeah,
About.
insane.
Um, so that's a lot. And there were times I think really last year is when this was my first thing before I toned back all the way. It was
Mhm.
like, okay, Joseph, you need one day off. So I tried to give myself Sundays off. Didn't always work out, but I was just a very deadline motivated person.
Mhm.
Um, so uh, before there ended up being a period where I would kind of start slipping deadlines a little bit.
Yeah.
I've mostly gotten away from that now because if you are working in comic books, one of the most important things is going to be a person who can meet deadlines.
Mhm.
And I will also say that there's a difference between a soft deadline and a hard deadline.
Oh yeah.
Uh, Now, if you can, it's great to treat a soft deadline like a hard deadline, but it's not the same thing. Uh, if somebody's like, this is going to an artist, this is going to a print, like this needs to be done on this day, that is non-negotiable. You need to do that. If
Yeah.
it's yeah, do the thing. How long do you think it's going to take you? And you're giving them an estimate, but they don't
Mhm.
care. They don't have a hard length. Sometimes, yeah, you'll shoot them as be like, listen, I think it'll be better if I have this much more time or whatever.
Yeah.
So, want to just setting the stage for everything because
No, for
I'm a
sure.
long-winded guy. But I became a very deadline-oriented person. And I just didn't, especially like, there was probably a year and a half where I didn't miss a deadline, like the first year and a half where I was just terrified to ever miss a deadline and didn't miss a deadline. And so it would just be like, okay, when is this due? And then eventually listen, I was much slower in the start too,
Oh yeah.
and like eventually we worked to be faster, but there were times where it would sit there and be like, okay, this is due tomorrow morning or whatever. So it'd be, 6 o'clock in the afternoon, it'd be like, okay, you're writing until it's done, whether that's midnight, 1 a.m., 4 a.m., whatever the hell it is, or sometimes it'd be like, okay, work from 6 to midnight, sleep for 5 hours, and then work for until it's due or
Mhm.
whatever. So yeah, deadlines always help me. Like it's just the fact of it needs to be done by now is way more motivating than sit down and try to do it. Um, and the other thing I'll throw out is I'm a scatterbrained person. So having schoolwork to like bounce between was somewhat helpful sometimes because I'd just be halfway through doing schoolwork and then I would jump to writing.
Mhm.
And the last little bit that I'll throw out, sorry, Dad, if you're listening to this, you probably won't love to hear this, is um, I did a lot of work during class. Like I would sit there and in my notebook be writing out a comic book script, usually during classes that didn't really matter, like gen eds. I'd be sitting there doing my
It's
what's
alright.
it,
He graduated cum laude.
my
It's fine.
yeah.
It
No, I'm
worked
trying
out.
to think of what a gen ed is now, but now like doing astronomy. I'd be sitting there doing my astronomy class, like writing a script in my notebook because
Sarah, if you're listening, I'm so sorry.
like astronomy doesn't matter to my life, compared to some.
Hmm.
Also, like in those high level graduate classes where there's like 5 of you, you can't do
Right.
something like that.
No.
But when the big lectures that didn't really matter, math class, stuff like that,
Hmm.
I would write in my notebook, and just do it like that. I also found somewhat recently, because that was something that I would do basically only if I had to for a while. But within the last year or two, I've noticed that my brain is able to get things out a lot better on paper. In the
Hmm.
sense of like, if I'm writing a script on a computer, I'll be like second guessing the way that it looks, in the sense of like,
Hmm.
that description's not long enough yet, or whatever, and I'll end up spending 10 minutes trying to write a full panel description instead of letting the story flow. So if I have a
Yeah.
notebook and I'm just handwriting it, I'll be, sitting there going like, okay, boom, like this is what's happening in this panel, but it won't be a full description yet, but I'll let myself write out the whole story. And
Yeah.
like you can look at some of my school notebook, almost all of my school notebooks. If instead of going to the front where the school stuff, if you just start at the back and like flip inward, you'll have scripts, or
Scripts and
just sometimes
scripts.
random pages if like I was trying to figure out a certain part that I couldn't get. So yeah, I guess it overlaps, and deadlines. I guess that's my answer.
No,
I don't know.
dude,
I
what
lost I
I'll
lost the
say,
plot.
from the peanut gallery over here, the amount of like secondhand stress I had from your deadlines. Because, we're
Because I would just tell you, wouldn't I? I'd be like, I got
exactly
one. Like,
fucking news break. Jay and I are friends. Uh,
yeah.
it'd be like, hey, do you want to play some video games? I'd be like, no, I have a script due in 14 hours. I'm like, do you want to play video games for like 3 hours and then do your script? He's like, no, I have a script due in 14 hours. I'm like, oh, okay, rad.
On the
Let me
other
know if
hand,
you
no,
want to do it
there
now.
was sometimes you were like, do you want to do this? And I'm like, as soon as I finish the script, and Katie'd be like, how much do you have done? It's like, oh, I have to do the whole thing. And she'd be like, what? I'd be like, don't worry, I'll be done in 4 hours, and then we can play
Here's the
video
thing,
games.
because we've uh, I think
That
it
was
was
a
when we were
good
talking
motivator.
about writing. I think it was when we were talking about writing novels. Because, geez, if we hard and soft deadlines, fucking novels, dude, insane. Because then it's not
Just started
24
cranking away
pages;
on one
it's
again.
fucking
Yeah.
10,000 words.
Yeah.
Which
Katie's much better at that than I am, by the way.
dude, I'm so fast. Like, whether or not I'm
Yeah,
better,
Katie's
who
a
knows?
good
I am
prose writer.
so
Katie's a fast
fast.
prose writer. I'm a much slower prose writer than I am a comic book writer. I'm a real fast comic book writer.
And see,
Not a
I
fast
think we're just
prose
completely
writer.
swapped there, and I think
Yeah.
I think it's because my comic scripts are so prosy. My it's horrible, frankly.
The funny thing though is my comic scripts have gotten longer over the year, but I've also gotten faster. Like if
That's
you go
fair. That's
back
so fair.
to freshman year, scripts probably were like 2,500 words, and just getting into the weeds here because maybe somebody out there cares.
Yeah.
Like they were like 2,500 words, and it would take me, I don't know, 11 hours to write a full script in terms of actual sitting down time. Brainstorming
Mhm.
time usually takes up a few hours, outlining, whatever. But in terms of
Right.
setting up the script, probably like 11 hours, whatever. Whereas flip over to now, and it varies depending on how much I'm going to edit or revise or how important the project is. But like now, we're talking like anywhere from 4,000 to maybe even 5,000 words for a
Mhm.
script, and like probably max out at like 6 hours in front of the computer typing it.
Yeah.
Like it's just such a reversal.
No, I
Like
don't.
even as
I don't think I've ever
you get
been
more.
at the 10-hour mark or anything for like a standard 24-page comic.
Yeah.
Because
I was
my
real slow at the beginning. I'd never done
that's
anything
fair.
at that point. I was just
No,
sitting
that's
there
fair.
and
Little
trying to
baby
figure
boy.
out what the fuck I was doing. Yeah.
But
I'd take
my
20 minutes to decide how many panels were going to be on a page.
see, I just write until I get to too many panels, and then I'm like, oh
Yeah.
shit, I suppose I should wrap this up. Mostly kidding, mostly. But my weedy number was, because I would use this to determine like how much I thought I should charge for stuff, was that I could write.
Don't charge
Like,
by the hour in comics. Just a
no,
little
no, no.
piece of
This was
advice.
for
Never ever
this
try
was
to
for
charge from the hour in
novels, which I would
comics.
then convert to
Ah.
words. Because if I
Yeah,
like, okay,
that's my number one advice to
No,
up and
yeah,
coming comic
no.
book creators. The second you start
Pages.
trying to think about it hourly, it will work out very poorly. No, but even like I've heard people like talk about their page rate, whether it's for artists or writers, and be like, well, if it takes this many hours, you need to it's like not going to work. Like if you get faster, your rate doesn't go down. Like
Exactly.
depends on it. It's a product that you're selling and that people are selling. It's based
For
on the
sure.
value of that product, not on
Yeah.
the time that it takes. So,
But
anyway,
for like figuring
little
out how
advice.
long it would take to do something as
Yeah,
well,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
is my thing was that I could do 1,200 like good words in an hour of
Yeah.
prose, and it was like,
Yeah.
okay, I can blast this out, and then it turns into,
I don't think I
that
can do
means
that now.
80 hours spent on an 80,000, or less than that, I suppose, to
Yeah,
extrapolate
yeah.
out the 200s. But let's just
Yeah, but
conservatively say
you know,
60 hours
there's
spent
time that
on
you're
a
doing
fucking
other shit.
novel.
Or, yeah,
uh,
yeah.
it's just like, oof. Ah, trying to budget that time in is so rough, especially because I thrive on a schedule. I love, like, my
Opposite here.
any of my family who is watching this is going to be laughing because I'm late to fucking everything. But if it's at the same time
Yeah,
every single
you
week,
are.
I am habitually tardy, and that is my
Yeah,
bad. Uh, but
yeah,
you know what? I'm very rarely late to work because I work the same time every week, um, and it really really helped me to know that kind of hourly rate, because I was like, okay, cool. So I'm gonna write, and I'll get my stuff done over like 4 days. It was still so rough because you really can't control how, as much as you wish that you could, and as much as, as you develop your skills, you're able to have more control. It's really
yeah.
tough to be able to control how quickly you can be creative, because, like,
Yeah, you want me to take something on that, or
yeah,
do you want to
sure,
keep
go
going?
for it.
Because here's my best piece of advice related to that, which is you need to have benchmarks set up for like doing stuff like, okay, I'm gonna write 5 pages, then I'll take a break. But the number one thing you need to be careful, because that's how I always used to do it. I'm a big proponent of 2 hours on, 1 hour off. That's how I work when I'm like fully freelancing.
Mhm.
So I work much longer hours than like people working 9 to 5, because right now I'm just feeling like that's all I'm doing right now. But we'll see how that continues. But yeah, so like on the summers, that was how I would handle it. So I'd work much longer hours than somebody working 9 to 5, but I would work with 2 hours on, 1 hour off.
Mhm.
I would never be working for more than 2 hours straight, because that would go poorly. But the thing is, whenever I had a marker of like, okay, I'm going to do 10 pages or whatever, and then I'm going to take a break and I'll come back and do another 10 pages, the number one thing I think when it comes to that is, well, I'll say there's two things to that. One is, if you're real stuck, you don't actually have to make it to the 10. Like, try really hard, but if it's becoming just shit, like, stop. But the actual biggest and most important thing is, do not like hard stop yourself at 10 if you are flowing. Like if you are just
Exactly.
going and you hard stop yourself, that is the worst thing to do when you are writing like in a freelance base, because you will come back to it and that flow will not be there anymore, and it will be
Exactly.
much more painful than if you had just kept going. And then like maybe you only get to 12 and then the flow dies and it's like, okay, you only did two more. That doesn't matter. Like just go. If you're in the zone, if it's feeling good, like if you don't feel the need to stop, do not stop because you have an artificial stop. That was something that took me way too long to learn, because I'd be like,
No,
I hit it, even though I
it
have
truly
my,
is just so
stuff.
funny how opposite we are.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I can't do that 2 hour on, 1 hour off thing. I'm like, okay,
Oh, yeah.
I feel the muse within me. I'm going till she runs out of gas, and I'm gonna go a
Yeah.
little longer than that too, because frankly, she gets the second wind. I feel like that is, yours is probably the much healthier and more professional way to go about things.
I don't know if it's more professional. I don't know if working, 2 hours on, 1 hour off is what most people would consider professional working, or
Who
working like
knows?
essentially like what is the math? Yeah, like essentially 12-hour days to work like an 8 hour day. Like that's essentially how that works out. Is I would work like, because I also wake up very early most of the
Mhm.
time, because I work,
But it's a page
because
rate, so it's not
the
hourly.
way that my brain works is that everything that I do before noon is bonus, because like
Ooh.
my mind is always considered like I can get my work done like between noon and like 8 o'clock at night. Because after 8 o'clock I kind of start slowing down, like I start getting
Mhm.
tired to the point that sometimes I can't work effectively. If I need to, a hot chocolate or some sugar does wonders. When I was on campus, I would walk over to the little like convenience store on campus and buy either a full box of Chewy Chips Ahoy or a full box of Entenmann cookies, and they would be gone by the time I finished working, which is very unhealthy. But that's how I would handle that if I had to work late. But yeah, so because I knew that I could get my work done from noon to whatever, if I wake up, and I typically wake up at like 6 a.m., like I have time to, even if I'm working 2 hours off, 1 hour on, like get a decent amount done. And in my mind, it's bonus.
That's just,
So
it's so
I'm a
silly.
weird person.
Because
I'm a very weird person.
I
In the way
like
that my
cannot
brain
work
thinks about
during the
things.
day, and I don't know if it's because
Yeah.
so much of my like freelance career was done while also working a
Yeah,
regular
during the
job.
day, and then you go home.
Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I have to write in like a liminal space. I'm like, no, I can't just be in the office. It has to be dark outside, and I have to like hear crickets or something. It's like I cannot have any
You need
sense of
those crickets.
normalcy when I am writing. So I'm
Yeah,
writing from like 10 to 3 when I'm doing my
yeah,
best writing. And obviously that comes with the caveat that then, you better do your editing when you're a little less, moth brained. Um, you look
yeah.
like you have a contribution. Is it about
Yeah, I
editing?
want to. Yeah, I'm always debating what I should actually say on the podcast or
No,
not. But
go for it. It's
because like the thing is, I
11:30
never
for
I never
you.
want like 3 years ago me to like reflect on like I want to preface so much of what I'm saying is not how I handle things now, But like
Hmm.
when I was in the like literally my sophomore year, like when I was doing just because you should not be writing
Hmm.
150 scripts
No.
in a year, like that is too many. But like the byproduct of that is I barely revised. Like it would be like it's done, and like I had tears of in my mind, like okay, this thing might actually get published. This thing is going to
Yeah.
get published. This
Yeah, I
thing
think we've
has
mentioned
an
that
outside shot
before.
of getting published. If this thing that probably isn't going to get published does get published, it's actually a good concept that maybe I should do something with, or this is dog shit. This is never going to be anything. Like this should not be anything. Like so, I would have my levels of how much kit, but like yeah, there was not, except for the stuff that I knew was getting published, and even then like my very early self was not a genius, so like I would think I have to know it's gonna be published before I work, which then would often lead to the first chapter of something I did that was published not being great, and then by the time I actually got to put more care into it, it would be canceled. I am sorry, Janitor Hero. In the first read the first two chapters of Janitor Hero, they're rough before I knew
Well,
that
it's
I should make
weird.
it good. Um,
Gender
yeah,
Hero is weird
so,
because it
but
starts
that's
not
not
in the
how I handle
Gender
it anymore.
Hero weird. I support you in
Yeah,
Gender Hero.
yeah. I fought against that. I fought for several things. It's January. Like,
Mhm.
listen, the Paintword's awesome, and they have great things, and they do great things. But there was, I was early on in my career, so I couldn't articulate things always great, and
Mhm.
then I threw a little bit of a hissy fit when I didn't get my way with one of the chapters, and so I kind of gave up on it. And that was chapter 2. I didn't get my way with chapter 2 because I thought I had the perfect way to do chapter 2, and I was really excited about it. And they shot it down, and I kind of went, fine, I'll do exactly what you said with no attempt to make it better and more interesting. I'll give you exactly what you got. That used to be my best way to like throw my little fit, is I would give exactly what they were asking for without any attempt to like polish it up or stuff. Again, not ways that I handle
No,
writing
no,
things
no.
now, but I was young and stupid and dumb. And but all of this is to get to the point of uh I'm interested, like, were you always big on revising freelance projects? Because I would typically like, my mindset was give it a once over to make sure it makes sense.
Mhm.
Is was essentially my revising process for projects I wasn't heavily invested in until like 2 years ago when I started. Now like it built to now I take everything as seriously as if it was my own work, because
Right.
I realize how much of it does end up out there, and it really reflects on you when some of it isn't great.
Oh yeah. I a blessing and a curse. I am such an edit as I go person. Like I obviously you need to do like a cohesion edit at the end, so you like read through, you make sure you hit the
Yeah,
beats that you had to hit.
that's
But
like
I'm
bare
also,
necessity.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm also, we've talked about this briefly before. I'm such an outliner. Like I will go through and plan out the entire issue before I write the issue, and so I feel like a lot of my
Yeah.
revising happens there in terms of like the structure of it. And then when I'm going
Oh
through,
yeah.
my revising is part of my process where it's like, okay, I reread things 6 times before I move on to the next page because I read panel one when after I finished writing it the first time, I changed some stuff. I read panel one when I went back to read panel two. And so it's very much caked into my process is doing this editing. And I think because I put in the work up front to make sure that I have those like the kind of issue long things going on. Obviously you should still
Yeah.
read it again. Um
Yeah.
but yeah, so I am lucky because I know that part of the reason I developed my style in this way is because I know that as soon as I finish something, I like any motivation I have for it just deflates out of me. It's like, oh, I finished, it's done. So anything
Yeah.
I can do at the
Yeah.
front
That's
end
right.
or
That's such a
during,
freelancing thing.
right,
Yeah.
to get that ready to be ready to turn in once I like hit the final period on my
Yeah.
last page. That is so huge, and I think that that's also, like you said, a really helpful thing with freelancing, especially if you're someone like me who struggles with deadlines. Uh, where it's like, okay, you gotta. I would get stuff in, but it's like I'm turning shit in 3 minutes before it's due. Uh,
Oh, that was always me. That was also like just you were always though you had very like you had quick turnaround deadlines. I didn't.
I
I
did,
always like
yeah.
gave long because I was doing so many things at the same time, and then like the thing is like I would put things in right before the deadline for two reasons. One, because I would often not finish them until close, and then two, because like if that was the time that like you essentially signed up for, I was like, that's when
Yeah.
you're getting it. I don't want to start putting in the mindset of, oh, you'll get this a week ahead of time. So like now
Hmm.
people start thinking it takes 3 weeks instead of 4 weeks.
Right.
It's like I don't want to
Oh
start
gosh,
that
four
idea.
weeks.
Yeah.
As
Listen,
just I
I
think
because
an Easter
if
egg. No,
I'd
here's the deal.
have
You
like
were so
12
smart with
scripts at
it.
any time.
You were so
Yeah.
smart with it. I was so determined. I was like, no, no, no. Because
You also charge like nothing. Like I was
I
sitting here trying to be
know.
like, Katie, please charge a little bit more and make it a little bit like longer because you were like dirt cheap and like I'll give it to you in 5 days. And I was
Which
like, this is
I
this is
actually really wanted
ridiculous.
to bring up with when we were talking about our pricing shit. I feel like so much of that was because I was like, no, I have a job. This is like extra money. It's like, no, you
Yeah.
gotta approach your
And it's
freelancing,
also
even
because
if
you
you're
thought about
working
it
a
hourly. Like
job.
I remember you would tell me sometimes you're like, well, it takes me this many hours, and like I'd be like, stop it, Katie. It doesn't matter how many hours it takes you. Stop. It's not how you should be looking at it.
No, it
Um,
isn't. But we have been running a little long here.
we
So
have.
do you
We're,
have
we're going.
any kind of like neatly packaged advice for someone who is a full-time student or working a full-time job and also trying to either freelance or just for their own stuff? Right.
Yeah, yeah. The first thing is freelance. Like that's where I'll throw that out. Like if you can get somebody to pay you to essentially learn, like
Mhm.
that's huge. You
And there are
probably need
people out there who
something.
want to pay you to do it.
Yeah, you probably need something, whether it's, in a different medium or whatever, like have a short story published, have something, somewhere
You
so
don't
you
even
can
need
speak
it
to
published,
some
just
sense of
have it.
yeah, yeah. I think, it's much easier to charge you have like something that makes you sound important, whether it's a
I mean,
degree,
for
whether
sure.
it's something like
Yeah.
you need like I had, I was hired to do a comic that was never published, and I would just act as if I was a big shot because of that. And I'd be like, I work for this publisher that asked me to do one comic that didn't happen. And I would just be like, professional comic book writer for that publisher, experienced whatever, and go out like that, and people will bite on that. So,
Hmm.
first thing is freelance if you can, because getting paid to learn is awesome. And
Yes.
even just getting somebody else to pay for the art is awesome, if it actually gets
To
that
build up your
far.
portfolio.
Yeah, doing something for pay is always better. But the other thing, man, there's so much I want to say. But uh,
So
the
much you
thing
want to
is,
say.
like,
It's been 27 minutes.
I know. Like, don't get uh, too caught up on, like, what your time's worth. Like I know that that's a shitty thing to say, but that's such a fallacy of the like indie comic community. And like there's two levels to it. Like if you are here to be like, I think I can get paid for this because I'm good or whatever, and This isn't something that you are doing because you want to do it. It's something you're doing to make the money. Like, yeah, nobody, like, you don't owe anybody your time to work on something. So if it's not worth it in your mind to work on something for X price, don't do it.
Yeah.
But also, people don't owe you X amount of money for you to do it. So if nobody is paying for it at the price you're currently at, that means nobody wants it at the price you're currently at. Which means if you want to do it, regardless of the money, like, you have to start adjusting until you find the price that people are willing to pay for it. So that's number one. Freelancing from creator-owned stuff. If you want to do it, the number one thing I can say is, one, just do it, and two, just get it out there. As in, like, do not take 4 years to put out a book. I have made that mistake. I am in the present situation of making that mistake. You will benefit much more from putting out a shit book immediately than putting out a shit book that's been reworked into a slightly less shit book in a few years. Because also, the first thing you write is going to be shit. I promise you.
Of course.
And that's the other thing. If you're doing creator owned, nobody's paying you. When you were done with that first script and you were so excited and you were so happy, put it in the drawer. It's shit. Move on to the next thing.
Right? You can revisit another time.
Yeah, come back to it when you've a little more experienced and you can have the mind to decide whether or not it's actually shit, but it's probably shit. But anyway,
and it's the first
I have
thing you
rambled
wrote, so that's fine.
so much.
You have rambled.
I've rambled so much. I'm sorry, kid. You gave me something that I could chew on so
No,
much,
that's
but
right.
I'm going to throw it to you here. You are the person who actually did it because college is different. I could kind of finagle things a bit more. You are the person who did it with an actual job, who had to actually fully support themselves and all that. Firstly, I commend thee. And secondly, one, do you think it's worth it? And who do you think it's worth it for? And two, what would be your quick-ish message of, like, this is how you actually manage it?
No, one thing that I didn't mention in this is that from 2020-ish to like 2022, I was doing full-time job, second part-time job, and the two different streams of writing. And then I was like, you know what I want to do? I've getting this consistent writing work. I'm gonna quit my job, my big job. I
I
kept
remember
my
when you did
D&D
that.
job.
Yeah.
Fucking fair warning. It's rough doing writing as a full-time job as a freelancer. Like, one, suddenly there's so much fucking pressure on it because, if you don't turn in your novel pages, you can't pay rent. You have to pull from your savings, and that sucks. And two, you have literally no control over who is going to be willing to pay you for what you did, which is part of the reason that my rates were a little cheaper, because I was like, no,
Yeah.
I need to get this shit. Not as bad as they were at the very start, because that was just trash. Because I was used to novel writing, which is such a different such a
and you also
game.
like you originally had like such a like high artificial panel count in your mind per page, and I was like, maybe you might want to play with that. You're like, nah, and then like a month later you were like, yeah, no, I don't do that many.
I have put 3 panels on this page.
Yeah. So
yeah.
Well, but yeah, I wanted you to talk about you going full time because that's a wild investment.
No, so I think that is, and I'm gonna be very cynical, and obviously everyone's different. It was such a mistake for me personally. One, I am, in case you can't tell from the fact that Jay and I talk to each other for an hour and a half on camera every week, on top of all of the other times we hang out, I am such a social goober, and writing really is so fucking lonely. Like, even if you have someone to read your work, even if you have someone to, living with someone, whatever, it's still so solitary for so much of the day, and you're so in your own head. It really is very rough to have that be like your thing. Like, if that's what you're doing for 40 hours a week, it is rough. It's even if you think that you're a little introverted, like I think I'm a little introverted despite how social I am with my lovely friends, it's still something that you need to try before you buy. Like, don't quit your job before you've figured out if you can spend a week barely talking to people because you have to get your pages done. I forgot what the other the questions you asked were. So no, I don't think it was worth it. Is going to be the kind
Yeah,
of
that was the first
blunt
one.
answer.
And the second one was just general advice for people trying to balance a
Yeah, I
real
think
job and not a full-time job
yeah,
and
yeah.
you know
I think the
freelance
really big
writing
thing is making sure
or
that
drawing, for
you are
example.
being a great fucking like advocate for yourself, which means you have to build good client relationships like immediately. That doesn't mean, be a doormat or whatever, but be incredibly pleasant, be, nice and engaging, because that means that when inevitably, because you have so much going on, and you're like, ah, shit, I'm gonna be a day late with this, you'd be like, hey, we're buddies. I'm gonna be a day late with that. Is that okay? And 9 times out of 10, if you've built those good relationships, they're gonna say that's fine. Because it's not like I'm saying I'm gonna
Yeah.
be a month late with something. I have a wonderful relationship with someone who I'm writing a book for right now. The actual like timer on our Fiverr gig, because we kept extending stuff and it's all changed around what we're doing, and
Yeah.
we work closely together on the book.
Yeah.
The Fiverr gig is over a year late because we've just been working on.
I have one that's at like I can pull.
Right?
I have one that's at like 300 right now because
It's wild.
not because because I was actually waiting on him because he was like asking me about oh man, it doesn't show the days on here, but
Bummer.
you can see that it was due in like July if I'm holding up that of like last year. You can see that.
Yeah, no, it's bonkers.
But I was like, yeah, because he had to give me, and then we were going back and forth with, like outlines for stuff, and like then I had to look at pages from the artist because this is like a client that I'm very close, and the book's actually being made and coming out. So yeah, that's like 300 and some days later, whatever, late, not actually because we talked about it. But yeah,
exactly.
Just such a you continue. But I just want to
that
prove
is
you
obviously
right.
a very
Like,
extreme case, and at this point we should have just not been doing it through Fiverr. But yeah, just,
pro tip: do as little through Fiverr as you can.
Yes, they're gonna send you scary messages that say don't give your email away, and your they notice in the chat.
I would never ever advocate for you to take a client on Fiverr off of Fiverr because that would be against policy.
Of course.
But also Fiverr takes 20% of everything, and nowadays if you want them to see if you want your gig to be seen, even with you being a very high level and advanced seller, you need to pay them to advertise your gig. And so all in all, they take a ton of your money. So if
they
you
take
could
extra
in
money
some
from
way,
your client too.
Yeah, so if you could in some way, somehow, possibly, find a way to work with people off of Fiverr, that would be beneficial.
Yes.
For you.
But we of course both
I would
follow
never
policy
advocate to break
at
Fiverr
all times.
policy.
Yes. Correct.
I do for the most part. Like I have had very few in which I have ended up taking it off, and it was usually for another reason, and then once it got off, like I then would be like, okay, well now we did something off because of it. Like one of my clients who I did the novel for, like when we were doing the novel, I was like, that just won't work on Fiverr, so we'll do that off. And then after we worked off for that, I was like, let's just also do the comics off because we're off. But
no, it is one of those things where like they do take 20%, and that is rough, but it is also that like security. Because they have to put the money in. But yeah, so building good relationships with your clients is the biggest must, in my opinion. Like more so than obviously when you're in a professional setting, your deadlines are like top tier priority. But building those relationships and being someone 100%. Who they feel like they can trust, it doesn't matter if you're going to be a few days late in the grand scheme of things. As long as
it's like I said about hard deadline versus soft deadline. Like if something's going off or something like that, or like you have a data, something like
if someone's hiring you through a freelancing website, they better not have
that's what I'm saying. Like that's what I'm saying. Like I wasn't speaking just to freelancing,
no, for sure,
stuff like but like I do, monthly comic strip for that. Like that's a pretty hard deadline because that is on a production chain.
Yes.
If I need a day every now and then, I can get a day. But like if I was to try to push that a week or something, it would collapse. For sure. The system would
also be very different if, your only interaction was my gig costs this. Can you pay it? Yes, I can. And then, 2
Yeah.
weeks later, the next message in your chat is, I'm going to be late.
Yeah.
You gotta build those good relationships, because shit is gonna come
Absolutely.
up. And
But yeah,
there are gonna be weeks
yeah,
that kick your ass, and you're not going to be able to complete all of your obligations. And
100%.
frankly, if
But
you're
yeah,
working a full-time job, that's probably gonna be your priority, because
yeah,
that's, how you eat.
absolutely. But yeah, it's just I think the main like message of my thing is just be aware of the circumstances in the book that aren't you.
For sure.
Like you are not the only cog in that wheel, so be aware of. And like again, a lot of times if you're freelancing, you're doing like other stuff, like there might not be another cog in that machine yet. And if there isn't another cog, then then it is just
For
about
sure.
you. But
Yeah.
once there are other cogs and they have production and it is working, be aware of like what the other people are doing. Because here's the real thing: as a writer, if you are on a team with a production, like anytime you were given or you were stretching, you were eating out of the artist, which
Exactly.
is a really shitty thing to do.
It really is.
So
yeah,
be very cognizant of that as a
like,
writer,
by all
because
means,
you do not
hit
want to
your
be the writer
deadlines.
who's known for that. Yeah.
But I also think that it's going to be, if you're working a full-time job while doing writing, I think it's going to be pretty inescapable that you're going to miss a deadline or two. And it's important to communicate that and be in your client's good graces so they are more receptive.
Like
Oh,
giving
yeah,
the real reason is usually because a genuineness is pretty. People are good at picking up on that shit.
Yeah.
Like people smell bullshit pretty quickly. But in any case, we are going way over deadline on this segment. So
it's okay. It was a soft
if you have any wrap up thoughts and you want to take us out of it,
I have no wrap up thoughts. Are you ready? We're not going anywhere else. This is the end of the episode. It's outro time. We didn't look at our polls.
Let's talk about our polls for next week.
We can't talk about our polls for next week.
We're gonna do it right now.
We're doing it live, right, boys.
We're doing it
you
live
pull up the polls,
this episode's
and I will
already
plug.
Unhinged.
Hold up. You pull up the polls and keep your little mouth shut.
I
will speak directly to camera. Hey gang, this Saturday we're going to be doing a live back issue review. You know how we removed the back issue review from the episodes? Well, that's because we're doing them in a different form. We still love talking about full-ass books, and we love talking about full-ass books with other people and with you, the listener. So, this Saturday I'm literally at this point checking a poll that we put out when we started recording. It's taking so much longer than I thought to load.
Has voted on this poll.
I also don't think anyone has voted on the poll, but I am going to check anyway, because what if one person has? We have to obey that one person. We'll do it.
You want to do 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. my time?
Oh, your time? I can't think in terms of your time.
8 a.m. or 9 a.m. your time?
Let's say 9 a.m. my time.
10 a.m. Eastern.
9 a.m. Central.
Nobody gives
7 a.m. Pacific.
So do you want me to go with the polls here?
Yes. What are we going to be polling?
Sinister Sons, number 4.
Hell yeah.
Napalm Lullaby, number 3.
Ooh, hell yeah.
And The Displaced, number 4. I'm sure we'll add a couple onto those.
Hot diggity.
But those three you can be
week.
guaranteed to. Yeah, it's a good week. But yeah, this has been a chaotic episode, and I'm so sorry to anybody who has watched this whole thing. I really hope you've used our time codes efficiently to skip over some bullshit. But if you've not, I thank you for putting up with us.
Right. So on Saturday, we're going to be discussing Batman and the Court of Owls, a personal favorite, I think, for both of us in terms of Batman books.
And we're trying to get a guest.
We have sent out a message and been ignored, but that's fine.
Yeah, so we're going to reach out. I think we're probably going to be reaching out to a few friends who might be willing to join us on last minute.
Exactly. And if you're listening and you are one of our friends and you want to join us last minute, reach out.
In any case, whether or not you join us for our live stream, which you better.
Oh, also, this past weekend there was a Strange Saturday Super Show.
There was.
We talked about
it went up on Sunday.
Slash. It was a Strange Sunday Super Show. Happy Mother's Day, Hack Slash. Her mother is a slasher.
Man, we really could have made that themed better. God damn it. Anyway,
it's okay. It didn't really come up in those. If we read Back to School, we could have. Next
it came
Mother's
up in the first one.
It did come up briefly. but new yearly tradition from the Script Heroes, because, yearly, definitely. Uh,
Yeah, we haven't even been around for a year.
no. Every Mother's Day, we'll do a hack slash book.
That's such a random thing to do.
It really
In
is.
any case, uh, whether or not you join us for that live stream, which you should, we will see you next week. Comic Geeks. Denial doesn't make an appearance.
No, I mean, there is a
Unless
river.
that's
Do we
where
know
the
for a
water
fact?
spirits was supposed to.
There you go.
Was that
Maybe she
supposed to
went
be
to
Denial?
Egypt.
They didn't make that clear enough.
They
honestly.
didn't make that clear
Like
enough.
maybe the chapter title is
0
what's
out of
supposed to. 0 out of 10 needed more Denial.